Welcome to Scotland. We are going way off the tourist radar in this video as we delve into the worst 10 places in this beautiful country. This is part 2 of the 20 worst places in Scotland. Alright, here we go. Number 10 is Clydebank. Now, Clydebank borders Glasgow. It's approximately 6 miles from its city centre, but it's actually part of West Dunbartonshire. Traditionally famed for its shipbuilding and sewing. The Singer Sewing Company had their main factory here until 1980. Nowadays, the focal point of Clydebank is the Clyde Shopping Centre, where you can buy Elvis t-shirts, you can go drinking cocktails, watching films in the cinema, playing mini-golf. You know, as far as shopping centres go, it's not too bad. Just outside the shopping centre, you've got the Forth and Clyde Canal running through. It has picked up a bit of debris and algae along its way. There's a bandstand where the locals come to chat about the weather over a bottle of Buckfast. The shopping area here generally is a bit dated, but I mean, it's not going to be easy competing with Glasgow just down the road. Now, Clydebank is a town that had a rough time in World War II. Because of its shipbuilding prowess, it was a prime target for German bombers. In March 1941, in the space of 2 days, 528 people lost their lives during the Clydebank Blitz, along with huge destruction on the shipyards, oil depot and factories. The decline on the shipyards and of the Singer Sewing Factory haven't been kind in the post-war years to Clydebank. This is the Solidarity Plaza, which is in honour of Polish sailors who helped out during the Blitz. Opposite that is the Clydebank Museum. Between the town and the river, there's a lot of, well, nothing really. I'm sure this town will grow at some point from its current 29,000 approximate population. The crane here you can see on the horizon is called the Titan, and this is probably the best known landmark in all of Clydebank. You'll also notice the plane there heading into Prestwick just on the other side of the river. So the Titan then, this is 150 feet high and it's built in 1907. It was used to build Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth I and II. It's now a tourist attraction, but it's currently closed for refurb. As is quite a bit of Clydebank, to be honest. So down here by the old shipyard, a lot of regeneration is occurring. After many years of decline and not much investment, Clydebank is finally getting the regeneration it needs. Particularly focused here, as I say, on the old shipyard. Very modern down here. Now, I was there in the aftermath of a summer storm and it was a weekday, but there weren't many people around at all. I imagine people just drive straight to that leisure centre and to their home again. And outside of the summer holidays, I would expect the area around the college to be a buzz. But if I'm honest, it did feel like the area was lacking a soul. Two things that weren't lacking though were rogue shopping trolleys and large puddles. This is the main station in Clydebank Town Centre, and as we can see from here, there's a fair bit of work going on, and I'm sure that Clydebank is a town that's heading in the right direction. It's definitely a work in progress. I headed down to Dalmuir next. It's also part of Clydebank, a bit further along the Firth and Clyde Canal, going away from Glasgow. And I went to see the area around the tower blocks that I'd seen on the train on the way from Dumbarton. But it's all seemed pretty chilled here along the canal, and also in Dalmuir where we are here. In fact, the whole town generally seems quite chilled. Clydebank, however, does have some of the most deprived areas in Scotland. The band Wet 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 were formed in Clydebank, and their drummer Graham Clark said that growing up here, your choices were crime, the dole, football or music. I'm not sure which one that he decided on. Let's move on to the next stop. Number 9 is Paisley, the largest town in Scotland, indeed the 5th largest place in Scotland, the town that spawned Gerry Rafferty, amongst other celebrities. Paisley is just west of Glasgow and has a population of around 80,000. This is the Piazza shopping centre. Paisley town centre actually has an area that you're seeing now that's actually fairly attractive, centred around the 12th century abbey here, in which several kings of Scotland are buried, and it nowadays functions as a Protestant church. And we've got the Paisley Town Hall next door. There's also a Hall of Fame here for Paisley, but I missed that, unfortunately. Both worth another look. This is the Abbey, and to the right the Town Hall, which is apparently as impressive on the inside as it is on the outside. The eastern edge of the town is pretty quiet. We've got a leisure centre here. There's only a few pedestrians about, just willy bugs. And then you've got the Thread Mill Museum. This is a free museum which tells the story of Paisley's thread making from when it started in 1722 until the closure of the last mill in 1993. The camera doesn't really do it justice. The chimney on this mill is enormous. Shell's profits stay up while so do your gas prices. Some socially conscious graffiti good stuff. Wonder what this bit says. Suck my balls. Okay. So, as I alluded to earlier, Paisley is another town suffering the effects of post-industrial decline. In Victorian times, Paisley was the world centre for thread making, and in the 1930s, 28,000 of the locals were employed in the mills around Paisley. In post-war years, the company that owned the mills opened new ones in places like Brazil and India. Paisley is now going through a bit of a stuttering regeneration. The town hall was refurbished and completed in 2023, but a museum that was supposed to have opened in 2024 is now expected to open in 2026. If you know who this singer is, please let me know in the comments. It's been bugging me for a while now. Also not sure who this one is. It looks kind of creepy. And someone's kindly put local historian Ellen Farmer's name next to her, so I know who that one is. I usually try and get footage without people in it, but this guy walking past the camera in his moody alleyway in his Fred Perry just kind of added to the scene, I think. We head into the town centre then. As you can see, there's some nice Victorian architecture on display in various states of repair. A few of the shops are shut down. It's been a long time since I've seen an Alders, but here we are. These department stores closed all of their stores in 2013. Paisley Shopping Centre consisted of a Greggs and just a Greggs by the looks of it. A recent review of the shopping centre on Google Maps reads, "Dire, nothing for the kids to do and no jobs either. After spending millions, it's now just an empty shell. Terrible council should get their act together, period." And another, "Absolutely horrible place, nothing in it, all the shops are shut down. Like most of Paisley, all you find are charity shops and carry out food places to eat." A statue of Queen Victoria stands here to remind us of the better days. The Children of Glen Cinema Memorial here looks like a simple, cute statue, but it memorialises a tragic story. In 1929, a canister in the Glen Cinema in Paisley caught fire. The audience, almost all of whom were children, attempted to escape, with 71 children being crushed to death in a panic and many more injured. It's considered to be one of the worst disasters in Scottish history. As we can see here, plenty more examples of Paisley's architecture. It must have been a fine town back in its heyday. Sadly, there's lots of evidence of wear and tear now. I had read that there were a lot of bad characters in Paisley, but I can't say that I encountered any. This is Paisley High Street, the pedestrianised area. Pretty quiet, quite a lot of it boarded up. Alright, so we're heading out of town now, and we're going to be heading towards the West End, past the museum here, the aforementioned museum that's closed at the moment. And this is the University of West Scotland, and this is the Coates Church. So you might have been watching thinking Paisley actually looks alright, and are probably wondering why it's number 9 on this list. Well, Wells Street. This is Wells Street. Almost all of it is boarded up, and half of it looks like it's about to fall down. Now, I was here back in August, and I believe this street is now being pulled down, being demolished, and it's genuinely the best thing that could happen to it. I mean, even the Romanian convenience stores can't be arsed with this place. And at one point there's an entire building missing, and apparently the decline of this street isn't anything new. A comment on Reddit reads that this is a junky shithole, and has been since the 90s. Now usually the west end of towns like Glasgow and London, for example, are the posh parts. Here in Paisley, it's the armpit of the town. Avoid at all costs. In fact, I would say you'd be hard pressed to find a worse street in the whole of Scotland. The sad part is that these were once clearly nice buildings. As you can see, an absolute disaster. I don't genuinely know how places end up like this. This shop here made me chuckle. West End Beauty. Any beauty left this end of town a long time ago. St Mirren is the local football team. They play in the Scottish Premier League in the St Mirren Stadium, which holds 8,000 spectators. The murals here are in the town centre. This one depicts the 1987 Scottish Cup winners. This is the last time St Mirren won a major trophy in Scotland. The stadium is in the Fergusley Park area. This area has been called the most deprived in Scotland a couple of times in the past, but it has improved since then. Either that or other places have got worse. However, fly tipping has been a huge problem here for some time now, drawing attention from the national media. This is Tanner Hill Road, which is due for demolition. Over 50 ex-council houses here sit vacant and are in the process now of being bulldozed. The demolition company has had to fence off the road due to the mess being made by the fly tippers and general antisocial behaviour. Two questions I have are, why are houses sitting vacant and then being demolished when there's a housing crisis? And why can't the council appoint a warden to stop the fly tippers or at least deter them a little bit? Just around the corner from here, we've got some brand new houses up for sale. But Paisley isn't all bad. In fact, the majority of it is fine. It's the hometown of Paolo Nutini, Gerard Butler and David Tennant. It has character and for the most part it's actually quite nice to walk around. Sure, it has some pretty unattractive housing, but at the same time it has one of the highest concentrations of listed buildings in Scotland. It's also one of the most important places in Scotland, with it being the 5th largest settlement and the largest town. It's nearby Glasgow if you get bored. It does have its own sort of bars and clubs and stuff. And there's four railway stations, and it's very close to the airport, so it's extremely well connected. But purely because of Fergusley Park and Welsh Street, Paisley ends up higher on the list than it should do. In a year or two, when those problems have been demolished, it will be a much better place. Number 8 is Glenrothes. Moving away from the west of Scotland then and into the Kingdom of Fife. Glenrothes is a new town with a population of a little more than 40,000. Glenrothes was built in the late 40s to cater for mining here in central Fife. In particular, the so-called super pit, Rothes Colliery. It turned out not to be all that super, as the mine closed in 1962, only 4 years after Queen Elizabeth II officially opened it. Glenrothes looks very dated, as we can see here. The Kingdom Shopping Centre is the largest shopping centre in Fife, and it's the focal point of the town. The first things you notice when you're coming through this entrance are the leaking roof, the subway on the left hand side, and 2 Turkish barbers in front of you right next to each other. The shopping centre also includes a library, cinema, trampolining, 10-pin bowling, theatre, casino, gym. Practically all leisure activities in Glenrothes can be found here in the shopping centre. A part of the shopping centre is this unusual church. Hippos are synonymous with Glenrothes because of reasons. You'll find statues dotted around the park and random places. Glenrothes has won horticultural awards in the past. It also won the dreaded Carbuncle Award for Scotland's most dismal town just over a decade ago. Some people have tried to brighten the place up with some art, and others have tried and succeeded to make it look a lot worse. I'll never understand rubbish like this around a bin. The bin is right there. Use it. Here we have some unexpected decorative totem poles. Walking through these, for a moment you feel transported to the great prairies of North America, where bison roam free, eagles soar overhead, smoke blows across the sky from a distant wigwam. Then the illusion's shattered when you see Greggs and Lidl across the street. Riverside Park is the best thing about Glenrothes. From on top here you can see right across to the Lomond Hills, and on the lower part of the park we have some more hippos. McDonald's eating hippos. And a barbecue to cook your hippos on. I wouldn't have thought a barbecue would be this exciting, but you know, each their own. The River Leven is the river of the Riverside Park. Pretty clean it is too, aside from this bike and this bike. It is a nice park though, and a much better place to spend your time than the town centre. Glenrothes is looking very much the new town here, with its drive-through Starbucks and Burger King. This spiky sculpture here looks pretty hostile, as does Fife House, the administrative HQ of the Kingdom of Fife, with a rating of 1.8 on Google. Walking around on this summer Sunday, I could see where the word dismal came from. I know the weather was bad, but I couldn't see anyone else walking around apart from in the park and in the shopping centre. And that's the problem with these new towns, for that's how they were designed. Lump everything in one place that everyone can drive to, and you have no need to go anywhere else. The whole thing is, well, it's you know, oh, you took the words right out of my mouth there. Even places like this where some colour has been injected, it just feels dirty and cheap and nasty. I mean, it just looks so grimy. Glenrothes just hasn't been created with pedestrians in mind at all. Even the public transport is pretty bad. There's no railway station in the town. You have to go a couple of miles out to Markinshire, or even further out to Thornton. And the bus is bad. Look at the bus stop state of it. The football grounds looked okay, but there was rubbish all around it. When Glenrothes was awarded the Carbuncle Award, one of the judges, John Glenday, had this to say about it. We see the Kingdom Shopping Centre as being the crux of the matter. It turns its back to the surrounding town. It's a windowless box, featureless concrete, blank brick walls. It's an unattractive public realm. Nobody wants to wander around this place. This interview was 16 years ago, and it looks like nothing much has changed. The thing is, what you're seeing now is probably not even on residents' radar. They probably don't come down this area. They know it's crap. They just have to go to the mall, the inside of the mall, not outside of the mall, and this bit just gets completely overlooked by everyone and forgotten about. I was quite amused to see the large collection of abandoned shopping trolleys here. It is just as well nobody wanders around, because you can just imagine the amount of fun drunk teenagers could have playing go-karts on these things. Well, that's about it for Glenrothes. I headed out past the old whiskey bottling John Haig factory, now derelict, to Markinch station, which is 2 miles out of town. Number 7 is Falkirk. Now, I've got to be careful what I say about Falkirk. A few years back, Chef Gordon Ramsay called the town a shithole on a BBC quiz show, leading to a furious backlash from its residents. One person said, "We don't want you here anyway, your food's shite." Another said, "How dare he, it's not that bad. Pump some money into the town then, you tosser." And another called him a cheeky bore bag. And the provost of Falkirk stated, "Better meddle with the devil than the bands of Falkirk." So I'll choose my words wisely. Well, here we have the Kelpies. Kelpies are a part of Scottish folklore, mythical horses that live in lochs and can change into humans. The sculptures here are 30 metres high and are pretty impressive, receiving around 1 million tourists each year. You can go inside the Kelpies, but you need to be on a guided tour. The Kelpies are in a park called the Helix on the Forth and Clyde Canal. The canal had been run down for a long time until the early 2000s, and now it makes for a nice walk. Swimming isn't recommended, however. This here is the highly rated Rosebank Distillery. The Falkirk Wheel is a huge and impressive structure which connects the Union Canal with the Forth and Clyde Canal, the only rotating boat lift in the world. Boats will start at the bottom and rotate round to the top, or vice versa. When I was there in summer, Sky Arts were there filming Landscape Artist of the Year, so now I've plugged their TV channel. Hopefully I'll do the right thing and plug this YouTube channel. I live in hope. So that's all the touristy stuff done, but what about the place Falkirk itself? Well, just to be clear, I'm concentrating mostly on Falkirk town here, because to cover the council area including Larbert, Stenhouse Muir, etc. would take about a week. So this is on the route between the Wheel and the town, and as you can see the housing is a bit dire. It seemed very quiet, there's not many people out and about. Falkirk has a population of around 36,000 and it's in a good location, not too far from Edinburgh and even closer to Glasgow. It goes way back to Roman times, and it's believed the old fort of those times was just here south of where the town centre stands today. This is the Howgate Shopping Centre, nothing special. The most interesting part about it is the stained glass windows here. Otherwise, it's pretty dead in the shopping centre. The poet Robert Burns said that Falkirk was an unremarkable town, which is slightly nicer than what Gordon Ramsay said. I'd be more inclined to agree with Rabbi than Gordon. There are some nice historic buildings along with some grim architecture and quite a bit of garbage. The Duke of Wellington statue stands in front of the Falkirk Trinity Church, which houses the tomb of Sir John de Graham, the only thing that Robert Burns seemed to like about Falkirk. Sadly, Falkirk town centre is a bit of a letdown. Retail park has been built just outside of town. More shopping options have been opened up in neighbouring places like Grangemouth, Camelon and Polmont, and obviously there's the internet shopping, so that's like a triple whammy death knell for the town centre of Falkirk. Here's a comment I read on Reddit. I've been away from Scotland for some time and find myself back visiting for a few weeks. Took the time to wander into Falkirk town centre today and it's in a desperate state. Half the shops on the High Street and Howgate are derelict, and the other half are mostly comprised of betting shops, charity shops, cafes, Greggs, and weirdly 2 shops which look dedicated to Wicca. The place feels like it's on its arse, and I know that other local places like Grangemouth are in a similar, if not worse, situation. A common theme running across Britain at the moment. A lot of work is going on at the moment on the old site of the Calendar Square shopping centre, where a new town hall is being built at a cost of almost £70 million. It'll consist of a new library, 2 theatres, dance studio and office space, which would definitely be a boost to the town. Falkirk has its own central perk cafe. Looks pretty quiet in there though. I guess nobody told them life was going to be this way. As we head out of town, well, it's a bit dreary along here with the rough cast buildings and the tower block there in the background. I do often think the best thing about living in one of these tower blocks would be the view. Not so much if your view is of the Lidl car park. A new cowshed here, an old cowshed there. In Calendar Park is Calendar House, a 19th century French chateau, now used as a museum with free entry. I know I said we were done with the tourist stuff, but I thought I'd give you a little surprise. The park here is infinitely more joyous than the town centre. Nowhere in Britain, I feel, does nature better than Scotland. The horses here, however, have pretty bleak industrial backdrop of Grangemouth. Around the back of the retail park are a couple of derelict buildings. This one used to belong to the council. There's quite a lot of roadworks going on currently in Falkirk. In the background here is Falkirk Football Club, known as the Bairns, who in 2025 won the second tier of Scottish football and now play in the Premiership, and doing quite well by all accounts at the moment as of November 2025. Falkirk has 2 railway stations and it's well connected for the central belt of Scotland. I certainly wouldn't call it a shithole. As a matter of fact, I think Robert Burns would be impressed by the Kelpies, the Falkirk Will and Callender House, and with the new town hall, it may well be better in a few years. But the town centre, I'd have to agree, is pretty unremarkable. Number 6 is Portglasgow, back in the west of Scotland, and as the name would suggest, this town was formed as a port to serve Glasgow. The port being established in 1668 and the town in 1775, exactly 250 years before the filming of this video. Next door to Greenock, it has suffered a similar fate. Its proud past of shipbuilding and heavy industry having gone into decline in the second half of the 20th century. These impressive 10-metre high sculptures depict the shipbuilders of the town. The smoking cabin of the port here has signs in English, Romanian and Filipino. The port is of course the reason for the town. However, next to the port is Newark Castle, a small 15th century castle and the gardens around it. Now, Port Glasgow isn't the largest of towns, with a decline from 19,426 in the 1991 census to 15,414 in the 2021 census. Port Glasgow is also home to one of the most infamous derelict estates in all of Britain, known as Scotland's Chernobyl. This is Clune Park. You'll have maybe seen this already on YouTube. There's loads of videos about it, but now Clune Park is in the process of being demolished. As we can see here, there's evidence of squatters, and the old shops of the estate are all boarded up, apart from an estate agent, surprisingly. From what I can tell, these properties were bought up when they were at rock bottom prices, and they've just been sat on. No maintenance, no repairs, and with nobody renting or buying, and people leaving the town, as I said before, and vandalism as well, such as the school being set on fire. The church is structurally unsafe, so the plan is just to demolish the lot and start again. When I was there in August, the school and the church had already been knocked down, and I'm sure plenty more has been knocked down since. It was kind of interesting watching the buildings get knocked down like this, like a piece of history was being destroyed in front of my eyes. Now, Inverclyde Council have said that these buildings aren't salvageable, but I'm not buying that, to be honest. These buildings were built as homes for the shipyard workers. They're robust and of good quality, which is why after 25 plus years of neglect, they're still standing. Until recently, there were actually some people still stubbornly living in some of these apartments, refusing to leave. But I didn't see any signs of life while I was there. Perhaps against my better judgment, I decided I had to go and have a look inside one of these properties. The door was open on this one, and this is what I found. It was actually more modern than I expected it to be inside, but it's clearly been looted and trashed. I decided not to go right to the top floor, as I was here on my own and with nobody to save me if I fell through the floor. Back towards town then, this mural depicts what Bay Street used to look like. In the car park of this tower block, police were arresting some naughty person. The town centre was very quiet. This was around 3-4 PM on a weekday. Port Glasgow is a proud town with a proud history. The world's first successful paddle steamer sailed from here. But the town is very down at hill. The town centre doesn't have much going for it. To the south is a dual carriageway and a retail park, so nobody needs to come into the town to do any shopping. Although Port Glasgow is statistically less deprived than Greenock, I can't help but feel that Greenock had more going for it. Certainly had a lot more people out in the streets. Until you actually visit places in person, you don't get that intangible feeling of a place, the atmosphere. I talked about the Carbuncle Award earlier on in Glenrothes. Well, the winner, if you can call it that, for 2025 is Port Glasgow. Local businessman Kevin Green was offered the award, to which he responded, "We have a bin sitting here. I'm quite happy to put it in the bin for you." In the end, the award was withdrawn. Provost Drew Mackenzie said, "It's ironic that the honour has been handed out at a time of transformation and celebration for the town as it celebrates its 250th birthday." Port Glasgow is, of course, like most places, not without its challenges, but we're working together closely with the local community and other partners to continually look at how we can make Port Glasgow an even better place to live, work, visit and do business. Unquote. Well, I hope those aren't just hollow words, because Port Glasgow needs a boost. This local artwork is almost as ghost-like as Clune Park itself. Number 5, Buckhaven. Bouncing back over to Fife now, Buckhaven is a small ex-mining town of just over 4,000 people, the smallest town on this list. Buckhaven at one time had the second largest fishing fleet in all of Scotland, although this declined in the mid-19th century. It then became a mining town. Coal waste from the mines literally eliminated all the beaches by silting them up. In the 1960s, the mines closed and the railway line closed around the same sort of time, and Buckhaven has been in decline ever since. This nice building here is the local hospital. After the experiment with being a mining town, Buckhaven is trying a new experiment now. It's reinventing itself as the world's first green hydrogen neighbourhood. Locals being paid £1,000 per household to have all their energy resources come from green hydrogen. As we can see coming up now, the offshore wind turbine dominates the skyline, and it can even be seen from between houses. Sadly, it does seem that not everyone is committed to clean energy, nor to the heritage of the town with this pathetic vandalism here. These are just 2 of 10 hairdressers in the town. That's 1 per 450 people. Aside from a few pubs and hairdressers, there's not a great deal to do in Buckhaven. It is a small town, so I went down to the silted up seafront to have a look around. It was a lovely day for it, midsummer, but you could tell why that wind turbine was there. It was pretty drafty down there. Now, I always enjoy being by the sea, but down here there was a lot of washed up plastic, and the houses here kind of made me feel uneasy, like a uniformly communist sort of what if the Russians took over Britain during the Cold War kind of vibe. Same thing here at the play park. Nobody here on this semi-sunny Saturday afternoon in July. Kind of like Pripyat, but a green hydrogen version with a T-Rex. Just to show you how windy it was, I went to pose with the dinosaur, and this happened. There's a few buildings like this in Buckhaven, but it didn't come across quite as run down as I'd expected it to from reading about it beforehand. The memorial here, Buckhaven's Secret, pertains to a tragic accident involving 9 boys and a parent. During World War II, they found what they thought was scrap metal, which would be useful to the war effort, and it turned out to be a detonation device, killing all 10 of them instantly. It was very quiet on this Saturday afternoon in Buckhaven, and nothing seemed to be open apart from a couple of convenience stores. When the shutters are down on these stores, it's hard to tell if they closed at 12 midday or 12 o'clock 5 years ago. I do find the housing here a little bit bizarre. These middle balconies here, I'm not sure what they're for smoke breaks maybe. You can only fit 1 chair out there, and there's no room to hang any washing. Generally, the housing was not aesthetically pleasant at all in Buckhaven. Buckhaven isn't all bad at all. It just has that kind of end of the world feel, but at least it does have a coastline. We make our way past the Ochil Hills to town number 4 on this list, and it's Alloa in Scotland's smallest county, the wee county of Clackmannanshire. Historically, Alloa had several industries, including a port, now closed, breweries, most of which are closed, and mining, which is all now gone. I was in Alloa on a Saturday afternoon, but the town centre was eerily quiet. I couldn't find any information online as to why this section of Drysdale Street was closed off. Alloa has at least 700 years of history and a population of just about 15,000. Some of the older buildings in town are quite nice, as we can see, but there's so few people around that it looks like they've put in these statues to make it look less empty. The design looks a little bit like liquid endoskeletons of cyborgs from a not too distant future who've been sent back in time to destroy the future saviour of the human race. I'm not sure where they got their inspiration from. The town centre is pretty drab, the usual boarded up buildings, charity shops, bookies, Greggs, and even a caca shop, which to a French or Spanish person would mean shit shop. Walking around the streets is mostly pretty dull, but you do come across the odd treasure like the Alloa Cinema. This is a church that is now a cinema and also, on occasion, a nightclub. Nice. Alloa doesn't have anything particularly offensive about it. There's no real ugly parts of the town centre. There's no rubbish piled up or dog poo everywhere and other things that blight other town centres. But it does have a strange atmosphere in the town, especially for a warm Saturday afternoon in summer. Maybe it was just the day I was there, maybe it's there all the time, I don't know. The bingo hall across the road here has definitely seen much better days. The pubs are all pretty quiet, especially for a Saturday afternoon. As I said, it was in summer. The colonnade here could have been nice, but the shops in there were all barbers and charity shops and pound shops and the like. I took a walk out to the south of Alloa. I read that parts of this area are among the most deprived in Scotland, so I did feel some slight trepidation. It is all very grey and honestly pretty depressing aesthetically. There wasn't too much evidence of antisocial behaviour, no graffiti or burnt out cars or anything like that, but there was a lot of rubbish stuffed into these bins that had no lids on them, so the wind had blown this garbage all over the estate, leaving a right mess. As you continue through the estates, you come out to Alloa Tower. Now, Alloa Tower is a tower house believed to be around 700 years old. It's too much for me to go into on this video, but it's got an interesting history of royals, witches and ghosts. Back through the estates then and down to Alloa Harbour. The harbour closed in 1970 as it was too small to compete with other larger ports and is now just housing and parkland. It's around here that the River Forth becomes the Firth of Forth and vice versa. And to the west is the one remaining brewery in Alloa, Williams Brothers, which gets good reviews on Google. Alloa doesn't necessarily have the worst architecture, not by a long chalk. It doesn't have the most rubbish, and the crime rate isn't particularly high, but it kind of made me feel melancholy, the old buildings mixing with the pretty awful new ones. The obvious lack of opportunities here after the three key industries have closed down. According to an article in July 2025, Clydebank has the highest unemployment rate in Scotland, almost 32% of adults not working. On the plus side, it does have this nice job centre that they can go to. The local motto is "Look about you," meaning look around you. Well, sure, if you're looking out to the river or the Oakhill Hills, but there's not too much to feast your eyes on in the town centre. Number 3, Lochgelly. Just over 20 miles east of Alloa and back in the Kingdom of Fife, we find ourselves in Lochgelly. The town of Lochgelly takes its name from the nearby loch and is home to just over 7,000 people. The Lochgelly Centre here is the cultural centre of Lochgelly with a library, cafe, theatre that gets good reviews, apart from one user who walked out of an Aladdin pantomime due to ad-lib swearing by the actors in front of his children. But this is nothing compared to the terror that Lochgelly unleashed on Scottish children of the past. Lochgelly is famous for the John Dick Company, who produced a little thing called tawses. Tawses were a form of corporal punishment for school children a leather belt with slits on the ends that would be wrapped across the open palm of any children playing up. Punishment would be administered in the classroom in front of their fellow pupils. The Tours was banned in 1987 in schools, but still seemed to sell to certain clientele. Lochgelly then is a former mining town and it's going through a regeneration, apparently. I didn't see much evidence of that myself. Here in the town there are no proper supermarkets, the nearest are in Cumbernauld, so it's just convenience stores like Co-op or Nisa and a few bakeries. There's no healthy restaurants, just Chinese takeaways, chippies, Marmaris pizza here and so on. The Royal Oak Community Club here has a sign in the window dating back to 2013. There's also a few bookies, 3 tanning salons, several barbers, several pubs, and surprisingly there's a couple of dance schools, though I never did find out what that thing on the right hand side is. I was in Lochgelly on a Sunday, so I wasn't expecting much to be going on in town, so I went for a little walkabout the back streets, and again it was pretty quiet, a bit of rubbish here and there, but plenty of green space, and it didn't feel intimidating or rough or anything like that at all. Most of the buildings in Lochgelly are beige, brown, grey, not very colourful at all, matching the landscape unfortunately. Now I thought it was just the buildings that were joyless, but the central Fife landscape also has a bit of a bleak feel in a way that is rarely experienced when gazing upon Scottish landscapes. Lochgelly Albert FC play here in the southern end of town. Now Lochgelly in the grand scheme of things didn't seem that terrible. There are certainly worse places. From what I've read online, most of central Fife like Kelty and Cumbernauld is quite similar to Lochgelly, post-industrial and trying to adapt. But Lochgelly was the only one I visited here in central Fife, otherwise the video would be boring as hell and I'd run out of things to talk about, like I have here in Lochgelly. Luckily, Lochgelly does have a railway station. Let's get out of here. But we're not leaving Fife yet, we're heading from the centre of the kingdom to Methil in East Fife, the home of East Fife Football Club. One half of one of the most famous scorelines in British football, East Fife 4, Forfar 5, for which you can buy mugs and t-shirts. The team plays at the Bayview Stadium down on the coast, which I imagine gets bloody freezing in the winter. Methil was once Scotland's main coal port, now suffering the effects of post-industrial decline, and is now, similarly to Buckhaven next door, looking towards green energy for the future. This is a work in progress, and as we can see here, the port area is a bit of a tip. No, scratch that. It's a tip, an actual tip. Battered, smashed up old boats, household rubbish, it's all here. TVs, beds, mattresses, sofas, the works. Bizarrely, there was a family just out of shot having a barbecue down here. I wanted to have a look along the fishing pier here and check out the view, but it was fenced off. But you know what? Sod it. Let's have a look anyway. Don't try this at home, folks. Okay, so you can see why it's fenced off. This is in a terrible state of disrepair. Still, it was worth it for the view of the old port and the staithes here, which would have been used to load the coal onto the boats. Now on the other side you have this massive wind turbine. Sadly, this whole area is a dump, a literal dump. Hopefully as the area develops we'll see it get cleaned up, but right now it would look better if a tsunami just came along and took it all out and we had to start it all over again. So that's enough about the dock. What about the town? Well, Methil has a reputation as being a rough town. Only 18 miles from Edinburgh as the crow flies, but light years away in terms of development. Methil has a population of around 11,000 and some of the highest levels of deprivation in Scotland. This is the high street around noon on a Saturday, and mostly everything was closed, including the Heritage Centre, now on the left hand side of the screen opposite the filthy bus stop. Rough cast housing on one side, featureless flats on the other, and a tower block in the distance. Alright, it's not all terrible, there are some nicer houses in here, but I do wonder what goes through some architects' minds when you see like this stuff on the right hand side. The Empire has seen better days, where have we heard that before? The tower block is fully covered in scaffolding, and surprise surprise, the bus stop here is smashed up. That's the third one already. The crime rate is high in Methil, and ironically, in a place where the first syllable is meth, there are issues in this town with substance abuse, and as they're called this side of the border, junkies and Neds. I wasn't expecting werewolves though, but here we are. Methil is a poor town, and generally crime and alcohol and substance abuse go hand in hand with that. Methil ticked all the boxes of a failed society. Poverty, vandalism, drug and alcohol abuse, failed businesses, lack of amenities, garbage, fly tipping, dog shit, lack of opportunities. The local primary school had attempted to brighten up the place, but now it's just looking grubby and miserable. I always try to find something positive in each place I go to, but Methil was making it hard work. This carpet shop looked nice. Apart from some areas of Glasgow, Methil had the worst problems with rubbish that I saw in any town. Just fly tipping, garbage, crap everywhere basically. Methil food market looked like it closed down about 20 odd years ago, and this church is all boarded up, and we've got some really ugly coloured housing, another grubby bus stop. Nice mural here, and quite a busy front garden going on. We're up on Methil Hill now. Methil Hill is called Methil Hill because it's on a hill above Methil. It was slightly nicer up here with the park. A famous phrase associated with the word Methil is "Methil no more," which is a line from a Proclaimers song called Letters from America, which specifically points to the closure of factories and the resulting job losses in towns like Methil. Methil is just one of these places that's had a bad hand dealt to it, and no, I don't mean that hand. Hopefully the green energy can give the town the boost that it really needs. Number 1, and I don't think this will be a surprise to anyone, what's it called? Cumbernauld. In England in the 1980s, we had this advert on TV where two kids were discussing the merits of drinking milk and the assertion that if you didn't drink milk, you'd end up playing football for Accrington Stanley. Accrington Stanley? Who are they? Exactly. Became the tag forever associated with the town of Accrington. Well, north of the border, an advertising campaign ran for the new town of Cumbernauld. The advert proclaimed Cumbernauld to be a place that was easy to reach by road, air and rail. Over 500 companies had made it their home, where people can enjoy golf, windsurfing, winter sports and squash. And a tagline, what's it called? Cumbernauld, a slogan that's ingrained in Scottish society. I've made my own version. The worst town in Scotland, a dystopian nightmare, a place where grey permeates, and a place where dreams come to die. The town that hasn't been updated in decades. What's it called? Cumbernauld. While researching Cumbernauld, I watched a movie set here called Gregory's Girl. The film was made in 1980, and Cumbernauld somehow looked more modern then than it does now. Life in Cumbernauld is centred around the centre, also known as the megastructure. Designed in a brutalist style in the 1950s, construction started in 1963 and was designed in a way that bits could be added onto the centre as time went on. In 1967, Phase 1 opened to much fanfare with all the retail outlets required for a town of a projected 80,000 population, plus an ice rink, hotel and even penthouse apartments. It was a bold plan which, almost 60 years later, hasn't held up very well. As a matter of fact, from what I can tell, the centre was already looking dated by the end of the 1970s. £15 million is currently being invested into the town, including the demolition of Fleming House and the town hub, with the entire megastructure earmarked for demolition after North Lanarkshire Council purchased it in 2023. So, if you want to see this failed experiment, you better get to Cumbernauld quickly, or you can just sit back and watch this video. This is us entering the centre. As you can see, it's very quiet here, and yeah, we're back outside again. By the car park is the Wetherspoons, in which a gentleman had dropped and smashed his bottle of Buckfast. Gutted. Cumbernauld doesn't currently have a high street. The centre is the centre in all meanings of the words. The Antonine Centre here was built in 2007, and that's the more modern section of the centre. The whole place is very confusing. It's almost as if it was set up like that to keep shoppers wandering around in circles until they spent all their money. Not that there's many shops to spend your hard-earned dosh in at the moment. Charity shops, bookies, boarded up shops, all the usual high street suspects are here, just without an actual high street. I have genuinely had nightmares about this guy scuttling about the centre, chasing shoppers and munching them up like Pac-Man. There's a lift here that goes nowhere. At least the escalator works, I guess. The local pub, Bar Yellow, closed down, and no wonder. TripAdvisor reviews point to the weird owner's son who stares at you while you eat, the pish poor quality of the food, and the rude and inefficient staff. The Red Triangle looks slightly better apart from the terrible beer selection. Even the churches in Cumbernauld are ugly as sin. Karen House, according to its website, is a modern office block. Maybe it was modern when school children were still receiving the tours as punishment. Back in the labyrinth then, and I'm starting to get lunatic asylum vibes. Even the artwork in the centre is oppressive. Cumbernauld is twinned with Bron in France. I sincerely hope that no poor French students get sent here on an exchange programme. Outside the library here, and we've got more leaking roofs and buckets. The whole of this centre is just a disaster. Dull, dated, dingy, depressing, dirty, dark, dystopian, dysfunctional and demonic. And the worst thing about it is, once you're inside, it's bloody hard to find your way out again. The harsh artificial light is enough to give you a headache, and it has a musky, sort of humid kind of feel to it. Another satanic children's ride here. I need to get out of this place. Thank God I made it out alive. It looks like the last person to make it out of there must have soiled themselves on the way out because they've left their pants behind. Right, let's see what the rest of Cumbernauld has to offer. Tryst is the local swimming pool. I always thought that tryst meant secretly meeting up for a shag, but what do I know? Cumbernauld housing is as inspirational as the centre. Dark, grubby and dated. These shopping trolleys stand sentry at one of the many underpasses. The bowling club looks like it takes place in a tin shed. Cumbernauld is pretty awful for pedestrians. This part is overgrown with weeds, and at this section the pavement just stops. In the end, I carried on walking along the hard shoulder of the dual carriageway and walked down to this section, and I just had to jump off the wall. And I was back here at the demolition site once again. Across the road are a couple of statues taking pride of place between Wetherspoons and the dual carriageway. This is the civic area with the new town hall here, and just next door we have the old town hall. Some more very tired housing here, and we make our way out of town then, and some of the estates actually do look okay. It'd be a big improvement, I'd imagine, on the overcrowded estates in Glasgow that many of these folk would have come from a couple of generations ago. Apparently this pub is permanently closed now, and the Wetherspoons in town is closing in 2026. One chap on Facebook reacted to this news with, "Chernobyl has more facilities, man." For a so-called new town, the roads and pavement are in poor condition, dog muck is everywhere, and some of the architecture is genuinely hostile. Cumbernauld does have a stadium which is currently home to Hamilton Academicals FC and a theatre in the southeast of the town, but being such a nightmare to navigate, I didn't even try visiting them. I couldn't find the bus station in the centre, and the bus stops elsewhere are by the sides of busy roads. And I'm buggered if I'm going to try and walk around Cumbernauld. Cumbernauld is a place that's set up for motorists. Cumbernauld was worth a try, at least the town developers were trying something different. It's just been very badly executed to the point where the whole project seemed to be abandoned very quickly. In 10 years' time, this place will look completely different. People will look back and say, "Do you remember that place with that big, brutalist behemoth in the middle? Ah, what's it called?" And collectively, everyone will shout, "Cumbernauld," and breathe a sigh of relief that the centre of Cumbernauld is a relic of the past. And so that almost draws to a close my trip to Scotland. Some dishonourable mentions for towns that I didn't feature on this list but have been mentioned to me since I was in Scotland are Airdrie, Cowdenbeath, Hamilton, Coatbridge and Livingston, amongst others. Perhaps I'll visit them on a future video. I did have some trepidation before coming to Scotland, but generally the worst places south of the border seem worse in many ways than the worst places in the north. Now do let me know your thoughts in the comments. I do enjoy reading them, even if the majority of comments are slagging me or my mispronunciations off. And hopefully I will see you guys in the next video.